Hello and welcome once again to Inland Empire Alive, where we bring you issues, events, and perspectives from throughout Riverside and San Bernardino counties. I'm David Brady, and on today's program, I'll welcome Angela Hoffman and Kenny Duran from Cause for SB Paws, a local dog rescue organization, along with several of their furry friends. That's today as we go to the dogs on Inland Empire Alive. Well, joining me now are some very special friends from an organization here in San Bernardino that fosters dogs. Welcome, please, Angela Hoffman and Benny Duran from Cause for SB Paws. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And please introduce the furry friends that we have with us today.
Well, we'll start with Mindy. Mindy is one of our senior Chihuahuas that we rescued from San Bernardino City Shelter several years ago. And she has really bad dry eye issues, so she just was never adopted. And then we realized maybe a year in that she had claimed Kenny. So
now we have to, she's a forever foster dog for us.
So she's Kenny's baby, and she's a forever Cause dog.
And this, I understand, is Poppy?
Yeah, so Poppy we just recently pulled from the same shelter, and she was rescue only there and pretty urgent because she has 2 knee avulsions, which is a pretty rare condition in the knees where part of the knee is actually broken. So we just brought her to an ortho specialist, and they said because of her age and it seems to be healing that she most likely won't need surgery and she'll grow up to be perfectly fine. So
good girl.
That was really good news. We just got that news yesterday.
So talk to me about how your organization started. This obviously seems like it's very personal to you.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm from Illinois, and I moved to this area in, it was about 01, 02. And I work as a teacher, and the school campuses were we always had a lot of stray dogs there. And in talking to my students, I realized, wow, there's like an overpopulation issue, in the area. And a lot of dogs in the streets, a lot of dogs reproducing. And my students didn't really know what spay and neuter was. And so then we also noticed in our own area of San Bernardino, it seemed as if dogs were maybe being dropped there. And so we took in 3 or 4 strays.
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, in the very beginning.
And then we both work at high schools, so then that way we started bringing them home, trying to find, the owners or homes for them. And then it just became to where we just started saying, okay, let's try to start an organization, our rescue, and try to, help these dogs find some homes, get them fixed up, to where spayed and neutered, and get them on our webpage and try to find good homes for them.
Well, talk to me specifically about what Cause for SB Paws does. Like, what does your organization do typically? What is your mission?
So the mission is basically to help the shelter and street dogs of the San Bernardino area. And then also to try to spread the word about spay and neuter and then microchipping. And also one of the biggest, one of the easiest things is just identification tags, because the majority of I would say 99% of the dogs that we find, they don't have identification tags. And 99.9% don't have microchips. So it'd be so much easier to reunite dogs with their owners, if those little things were done.
And these are things that cost, what, dollars?
Right, yeah. So just, maybe like $6, $7 for an identification tag. And microchips, there's a lot of organizations that at this point, including ours, that will provide microchips for free. So
I know from having spoken to fellow fosters that it's a really big commitment. It's not just going to the pet store and getting a pet. Can you talk to me about those differences? If there's a family watching this and they're wanting to get a pet, you've got a lot of choices. You've got the pet store, you've got the shelter, and you've got foster. Can you kind of walk me through some of the advantages and the disadvantages and those considerations that people really need to think about before they make those decisions?
Yeah, for sure. Southern California, because there's such an overpopulation issue, has definitely moved away from pet stores. So the idea now is, instead of looking for, like a perfectly bred dog with papers and, the parent's history and whatnot, to try to stop the overpopulation of animals in our shelters and our streets. And we've got perfectly adoptable dogs that are being euthanized at San Bernardino City Shelter, DeVore Shelter, Western Riverside. There's just every shelter in Southern California is maxed. And so in order to reduce the number of dogs that have to be euthanized in the shelters, go ahead and adopt, but also don't expect perfection. Don't expect a perfectly bred dog where you're going to know their history. You're kind of getting yourself into a situation where you're really helping a creature in need, and they could have anxiety issues. They could have had really parents that may not have been taken care of, and they might have passed some of that on to the puppies. And if you're adopting a puppy, still just don't expect perfection, and know you're going to be working with this pup or adult dog or senior dog that you adopt. And if you can put in the work and be patient, you will be amazed at the bond and the relationship that you develop with these dogs that are in a lot of need and imperfect. We always say perfectly imperfect.
Is that a misperception that you often find, that people think I have to have a dog that has these great attributes, when really it really should be more about finding a dog that you love and finding a dog that you bond with. A dog is not a toy.
Right.
A dog comes with a lot of responsibility. So I think when you're making that decision, it really should be not I want a dog that comes with a sheet of paper that says he's special.
Yeah.
But that there's love and there's affection and there's commitment.
Definitely.
To, like you said, working with dogs that may have special needs and issues. So I understand you brought some other special friends with us today. So who else have you got with us?
Oh, okay. Did we already tell Mindy's story?
Yeah, you told Mindy's story.
Okay. Yeah.
We could bring another one.
Yes, you could.
Yeah, let's bring Lizzie over.
All right.
And then this is one of our fosters, Katrina. So Katrina and Geraldine do amazing work.
Lizzie. So I'm terrible at guessing the breeds of dogs. What can you tell me about Lizzie?
So Lizzie is,
If you want to pick her up a little bit?
Yeah, sure. We actually never know the breed either. So unless some of our adopters will do, like Embark has a really good, come on baby, DNA test. But we just guess. So we guess she's like a terrier mix.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually say terrier mix, Chihuahua mix, pit bull mix.
Okay.
Or some kind of lab shepherd mix.
But a good girl?
Yes, very good girl.
Very
And
good girl.
the great thing about Lizzie is she came into our organization pregnant, and she had her puppies years ago, and then Foster, who's here with us today, Lori, she actually adopted Lizzie. And that's how Lori came to know our organization. And then after that, she started fostering and volunteering. So.
Do you stay in touch with the dogs in some cases after they?
Yeah, we're kind of crazy like that. Like we warn people when they adopt. We're like, we really like to keep in touch. So we have some adopters that are a little like, okay, like I'll keep in touch, text you now and then. And we have others who, like every other
Send
day,
pictures.
Yeah, it's like watching your kids grow
We have
up.
a Facebook page
Yeah,
and
sure.
an Instagram page where we like to update everybody on how the dogs are doing.
Yeah, and so they're like, I'm sorry to bombard you with all these updates. We're like, no, we love it.
Well, you mentioned puppies. So where do foster dogs typically come from? Are they the strays that the dog catcher finds on the street, or are they folks that they find themselves with puppies and they don't really know what to do?
Yeah, we
And
got
a lot of
combination.
them, combination of that too. And then, like we said, some of them we rescue off the streets, or people email us saying they can't keep a dog anymore. And then without our great fosters, we won't be. It's so hard if we don't have the fosters. Sometimes we can't bring them into the rescue because, we got to have a plan. But that's usually what happens. People get a hold of us, or we find them on the streets, or we rescue a lot of them from the shelters.
Yeah.
To
The shelter will send emails out to the rescue groups and say, hey, we are so overfilled. Like right now is probably the worst time ever since we started the rescue. And we don't know if it's a combination of like the pandemic and so many people adopting and then everything opening back up and people feeling so stressed they feel like they can't keep their dogs and cats anymore. But it's so bad right now. And so we do get a lot of emails from the shelter. And they're like, we are overfilled.
How has the pandemic changed things? I mean, I know in my case, I really enjoyed working from home and getting to spend a lot more time with my pets. And, they were a great source of entertainment and comfort. And I really, didn't want to go back to the type of work where it would take me out of the house. I mean, has that has there been a change in the dynamic of people wanting to spend more time with their pets?
Yeah, sadly. It was wonderful when everything was shut down for animals. The shelters were actually clearing out. They were taking pictures of empty kennels, the first time in history that they'd ever seen that. So we were so hopeful. And then everything opened back up, and the next thing you know, it's how it was times 10. So it's almost like opening back up stressed everyone out so much that a lot of people are really feeling like they can't keep their animals.
Now,
So.
I know what a pug looks like, and this is a
Yes.
pug. Okay.
Yes.
Now
This
tell
is
me
a
about
pug.
this lovely little gentleman.
So it's not very often that pugs are in need. They're a really sought after breed.
Sure.
So he was at San Bernardino.
This is Barry?
This is Barry.
Barry.
Yeah. He was also at San Bernardino City Shelter, and we thought his issue was that he needed one of his eyes enucleated, which is eye removal. And the pictures, like both of his eyes were red and bugged out, and it looked really, really bad. So the shelter emailed everyone and said, hey, we have this medical guy, he needs out, can you help him? But it turned out his eyes were savable, but he was showing some weird neurological symptoms. And so then we thought maybe he has a brain tumor, he has a neurological issue. It turns out he has an inoperable liver shunt, which Lori is also fostering Barry. She could probably explain it better, but it basically makes it so that his liver's not working properly and his blood is not being filtered properly.
Well,
Yeah.
we're running out of time. Is there anybody else you've got?
Yes.
I know you have
we
one
have
very
Little
special.
Nubs. Little Nubs is one that we just got from Devore, and her story is heartbreaking
Hello,
but
Mr.
happy
Good-
at this
Oh,
point.
you're such a good boy.
Hi, Nubby. Okay.
So this is Nubs.
This is
Yes.
Nubs, and she was at Devore Animal Shelter just recently, and she was another urgent case, and her tail and her leg was like maybe cut off right here, and her ears, it looks like maybe someone did, sadly, people will do home ear cropping and then tail docking. And everything was infected when they first confiscated her, the Devore Animal Shelter, and her leg was just kind of half there. We don't know what happened. Everything was badly infected, and so the shelter held her for about a month because they did a cruelty investigation. So they had her vetted there, like, they can do only so much.
Right.
And then once we pulled her, we had the rest of her leg amputated. Her tail was cleaned up a little bit. They had to amputate it, but not completely. And so here she is. Yeah, she's
What a
doing great.
Sweet girl.
She looks so much better than when we first got her, and she's grown so much.
Well, I want to make sure we mention the website because that is where people can go to find out how to adopt some of
Yes.
these wonderful dogs. The website is Cause for SB Paws. That's PAWS.org. We will put it up on the screen.
Yes.
You have a section where people can browse available dogs. How often is that updated typically?
She's every few days.
Okay.
We'll go in and we'll kind of add something to their bios, or if a new dog comes in, we'll.
And you mentioned bios. It's not just a picture and a name. It tells you so
Yeah.
much about the dog, where
Yeah.
they were found, their temperament, pictures, videos. You really do a good
Yeah.
job, I think, of
Thank you.
telling their story and making
Yeah.
them, someone that someone will want
And
to
plus,
adopt.
we want the next adopter that's going to adopt to know the history of the
Yeah.
dog and how we found it and how we got it to.
Well, thank you so much for being
you.
here today, and thank you for bringing
Thank
the
you.
special offerings. It was wonderful to have you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
so
us.
much.